I'm Amelia Lopezona. I was a member of the women's lacrosse team here at Penn, and I began struggling with mental health conditions when I was a freshman in college, specifically with depression and anxiety.
My name is Georgia Riley. I was on the varsity swim team here at Penn for 2 years. My history with mental health did start before my time at Penn. I struggled with eating disorders in high school. Outside of that, around my sophomore year, right before I quit, I started dealing with depression for the first time.
My name is Zach DiGregorio. I'm a sprint football quarterback. I'm a senior, and I've dealt with anxiety and depression since I've been 17.
Hi, my name is Kristen Adams. I was a member of the Penn women's lacrosse team, and I have anxiety.
My name is Max Rothschild. I'm a member of the men's basketball team, and I struggle with depression and anxiety.
Hi, I'm Kyle Thornton, a member of the men's lacrosse team, and I struggle with anxiety.
I injured my hips very badly, and I started to get really tired all the time. And I had some surgeries for my hips too, so part of my body was like, I would just sleep for 10 hours and still need like 3 coffees in a day just to kind of get through the day and get to practice and kind of get what I needed to get done. I didn't even realize it was the depression for the longest time because I just thought that my body was healing and reacting to this injury. And I realized, like, wait, that's not normal.
It first started to come about my freshman year. I would get really nervous before games, more nervous than I usually get before tests, which I never got nervous before tests. And then I started to get in these really big slumps, not wanting to go to class, not wanting to do work, not wanting to go to practice, just wanting to stay in my bed. And that's kind of when I first felt these symptoms come along, and they've been on and off kind of ever since, and I've been learning how to deal with them.
So when I came on campus my freshman year, anxiety wasn't something that was new to me. I've actually been diagnosed with anxiety since I was in about 5th grade. When I came to Penn, I was kind of just by myself, and I didn't have my friends from home, and nobody really understood, and I didn't have my mom with me. So it was really just a feeling of helplessness. You kind of just feel like you're alone a lot of the time when you're struggling on your day-to-day. I used to get really tired, so there were times where I would just want to stay in bed. I didn't even want to get up for the day. And it's just something that feels like it just brings you down, and it's just a very draining feeling.
The first symptoms I noticed were kind of insomnia the nights before I had a big event, so typically morning lifts, early practices, big tests, stuff like that. I didn't take much note of it, figured it was just normal stress. And then in December, January, Christmas break, the typical anxiety attacks, not wanting to go places, just little things would set me off, like how's school, and I would give a fake answer and then have to immediately leave and just kind of sit somewhere and try and calm my breathing down, calm my head down. And it got to the point where I wanted to basically just be alone and I felt distance from my family, from my friends, which was kind of when I started to realize that something was really wrong.
I, objectively speaking, was at my highest performance when I was like 12 or 13. And then because of my health issues, my performance severely deteriorated, but no one knew why. I was very secretive. I ended up just not improving. A lot of times people do peak in athletics, and I think that's one of the hardest things for us to deal with because everything is based off of a very tangible success system, and if you're not falling onto that system, you're inherently judged as a failure. So I struggled with that a lot my freshman year. I was expecting to at least drop time. My sophomore year, I came into it and was still just not improving, and then you're looking at these freshmen who are maybe doing better than you, and there was at some point, probably around October, a time when I was textbook depressed for the first time. I did not leave my bed, I did not make it to my classes, I did not make it to morning practice, I think ever, for 2 weeks, which is not okay, not all right.
I've dealt with a lot of the classic depression things of feeling very lonely and very hopeless and feeling like you're stuck in bed or you can't motivate yourself to do the things that you enjoy, and just generally feeling like it takes a lot of energy to be me. And then with the anxiety, just having to deal with panic attacks and like just your heart racing when you start thinking about a whole lot of like what ifs and like worst case scenarios.
When I first came in as a freshman and sophomore, I just think I was young, and I kind of took it very seriously, my sport, took it as a job. If I was doing well, then my life was great. If I was doing poorly, my life was terrible, and there was no separation or escape from that from the athletics, and it just seemed to consume my life. And I was always with my teammates and always working, doing something, whether it be practice or everything was towards, playing basketball. When you don't see the results that you want, that got me really depressed. And then I was actually it got me even more anxious to where like I felt like I had to perform super well in order to be happy in my life.
Like I was also just had like no motivation to like, get out of my bed or kind of go do things or hang out with my friends. Other times I was really very irritable. I was with my family at home and they could say the smallest little thing and I would just lose it to the point of like my heart would start pumping. I thought that my heart was going to be out of my chest if I didn't like release this weird pocket of pressure. There was a time when I was injured and on the sideline of a drill, and that pressure started to build up as I was thinking about my injury and lacrosse and recovery and how I'm just not going to contribute anything to the team. I'm not going to reach any of my goals. And I literally couldn't breathe. So I turned around and sprinted straight back to our locker room and just prayed that nobody would notice, because at that point, I just closed the locker room door and screamed until it was all back to the point where I could breathe again.
Athletics are a really weird group of people, especially at Penn, I want to say, where all of us have at some point in time achieved some type of academic success and some type of athletic success. So with that being said, the hours in their life had to have been crazy. They definitely have some level of type A in them where they're very regimented, whatever. So athletics really do highlight a level of this is a success, this is a failure. And there's such a black and white on it that you can say, oh, you did well in this meet, it's okay, but it's so easy to get yourself down. Well, this person did better. Well, nationally, we dropped a rank, whatever it may be. And you can always find that. So if you're dealing with it in school maybe as well, where everyone, I think, comes to Penn and has some level of culture shock at the level of intensity here, your athletics are just gonna add on to that. Even if maybe you did well at a practice, maybe you're stressed about school. And if vice versa, if you do well on an exam, maybe you miss morning practice to study. And there's just never a time when you can completely feel like you're on the right path. And I genuinely have not heard anyone on my team be like, yeah, I'm killing it right now. Like you're either messing up somewhere, and even if it's all in your head, it's somewhere.
So I think that prior to college athletics, that lacrosse and in high school when I played soccer, it was more of an escape for me. And I think that a lot of that comes from pressure, both from the coaches and just from academics in general. High school was obviously not as much heavy lifting as college was. And then when I got here, it took me just a little bit of time to adjust. And it was never about the fact that I was busy, because I love being busy and I like spending time just doing things. But it was more just about how can I be the best, and how can I be the best performer for my coaches and for my teammates, and how can I do this while also succeeding at school. And this was something that was very, very challenging for me, as I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Thankfully, my coach convinced me to stay a part of the team, but just not play and not have any pressures on me. So I stayed around the team, and even then I was sitting on the sidelines thinking, am I doing something wrong? Am I messing up in some way? Am I doing something that's going to cause my teammates pain or have them be punished? And that was kind of not my breaking point, but where I was like, wow, I need to fix this, because I was looking at my friends, looking at my family, and just kind of wanting to just go back into like my own little world. And because I thought that I was going to be a burden to them, and in a school like this and in life in general, I just figured nobody needs the added stress of what I'm dealing with.
If I didn't have athletics during that, if I didn't stay in athletics during a lot of that time, or even just like hit a different struggle in my life without, and it set on my depression, anxiety without my teammates around me, I would have gotten lost. The only thing that used to get me out of bed was the fact that, you know, some of my friends would come into my room and physically pull me out of my bed. People that held me not held me accountable, but actually kind of took it into their own hands. You know, I didn't start going to therapy or seeing a psychiatrist until one of my best friends forced me to, and literally emailed her therapist at CAPS saying that he needs to squeeze me in.
The people reaching out and the people who told me, like, this isn't okay, we need to find some way to help you, were my teammates, were my coaches. They would pull me aside of practice and say, like, you don't look the same anymore, like something's wrong. They, you know, maybe if you schedule classes with your teammates because it's fun, you're on the same schedule, whatever. They then knew that I not only missed morning practice, I'd missed my class. They're then infinitely more worried, instead of just being like, oh, she was tired, she studied for an exam. They knew that wasn't it. So I think the level of closeness that you find in a team does become so important. And I'm still so close to them today, even though I did decide I needed to quit. It wasn't healthy for me. So I think that there is a tight-knit family, and no matter what's going on inside that family, that is a huge positive to athletics, even in the realm of mental health.
I think it's important that the teammates are very aware of everything that could happen, because your teammates are kind of like your best friends and your brothers. And if I especially felt way more comfortable talking to them and then going to my coaches, but on that point, the coaches need to be, and we're very good about it, but they need to have not a gentleness about it, but they need to be a little careful and kind of be open to what the kid wants to do with it, but also know ways, the smart ways to help a kid out, because a freshman in college is not going to know that the best steps for them is to go to CAPS or to go see a specialist in a certain area. So I think the coaches need to know what the best steps generally are for somebody who's struggling with a mental health illness.
Especially at a place like this, I think coaches need to try to understand where, you know, the student athletes are coming from at a school like this, at a prestigious institution where, you know, the professors are asking so much of you and you're asking so much of them. Can you find a balance and find a way to appeal to them in a good-hearted manner that will allow them to open up to you and feel like they can trust you?
Just more on a personal level, just reaching out to people and making sure that like they're okay and seeing how they're doing, and not being afraid to talk about these things, because there are so many. It's not like a broken arm or a torn ACL where you can see what the problem is. It's all in your head, and that doesn't make it less real. It just makes it harder to spot in a person.
I want to raise awareness of mental health in athletics at Penn.
I want to raise awareness of mental health in athletics at Penn.
I want to raise awareness of mental health in athletics at Penn.
I want to raise awareness of mental health in athletics at Penn.